Coming up on this episode, it's the second part of our baking extravaganza. Last week, we challenged each other to make a certain French baked good, and tonight we're going to reveal the results and explain our experiences. Plus, if there's time left, we may touch into the upcoming winter movie draft. It's a big episode, and it's going to start right now. This is Up for Debate, episode number 159, recorded October 3rd, 2019, The Great Debate Bake-Off. Hello, everybody. Welcome to this episode of Up for Debate, the debate podcast where the two hosts agree on everything. I am Sean Jennings, joined as always by our own pastry chef, Mr. Matt Mariani. Hello, Matt.
Hello, Sean. How are you today?
I am sugared up and ready to go.
Yes. Nice. This is all baking all the time podcast.
Apparently.
We'll just call ourselves that. We're just the
Up for debate?
Up for debate. Up for, I like it. Up for debate.
Yep.
I'm trying to think of something about like a souffle. You know, like a souffle rises. It's like up. Like a up. I don't know. Have you ever tried to make a souffle, Sean?
No, I don't even know how you make one.
Oh man,
it doesn't sound fun. I don't think I've ever eaten a souffle.
No, I can safely say that I have not.
No, it doesn't sound appealing.
It does not. But you know what else is not appealing at all?
The things we baked for tonight?
Making macaroon. Oh, man.
Oh, Matt. So, for folks who didn't listen to last week's episode, and I highly recommend you do, episode 158, Matt and I, we talked about baking and all different techniques and different baked goods, but at the end of the episode, we challenged one another to make the same baked goods. We wanted to make it a challenge, so we decided to make the French macaroon, and I think we need to share our experiences. Matt, do you want to go first, or should I?
I'm going to jump into it, because
Matt, how did it go?
I've been waiting to vent about how hard these things were to make. So let me begin by saying that I had a vision before I went into this of somehow not saying that I was going to make the best looking macaroons in the whole world. But I thought when I was preparing, when I was getting the ingredients, when I was putting it all together, I thought I was going to make at least competent macaroons. We could call our podcast that. Competent macaroons. I kind of like the ring that has. But I wouldn't say that I didn't think they were going to come out to be the best looking macaroons or the best. Sean, do you want to know what my final macaroons ended up looking like?
You know, Matt, I'm going to play against the type here, and I'm going to say they came out looking picture perfect. Because I believe in you, Matt. I believe in you.
So, well, actually, let me start by. I'll go through the process.
Yes,
and then
please,
we'll work our way, and we'll get there over time. Let's go through the process. I did my research. I did my homework. I used a recipe from preppykitchen.com. That was the recipe that I followed. I watched they also have a YouTube video, like a 10 or 11 minute YouTube video of tips and tricks while you're making macaroons. The preppy kitchen way. So I watched the video. I had it on as I was making the macaroons as well. I read through the recipe. I did everything. I guess you could say that the ship started going in the wrong direction. They suggested, I don't know if you did this, but they suggested withdrawing the egg white 2 days in advance, letting it sit in the refrigerator for 2 days in advance. No,
that was a preppy kitchen thing. Say that.
I did not do that because I thought that was this preppy kitchen being too precious. So, no. I did not do that. So I that was maybe my first regret. They said that it dehydrates the egg yolks or the egg whites just a little bit, just enough so you get to the consistency that you want. Things were going pretty well at the start. I had my egg yolk separated from my egg whites. I had the almond flour going. I had the buttercream in the process of being made. It all went downhill and I never really fully
Oh,
recovered from
no.
this. When instead of, I think instead of choosing to use a piping bag, I did not. I actually saw that I was at Bed Bath and Beyond. I chose not to buy the piping bag. I could have bought it. It was about $5. I did not. I said I don't need that. I've got store brand plastic bags at home that, Ziploc bags that I cut a corner in one and tried to use that as a makeshift piping bag.
That actually should work.
It actually wasn't the fault of that was
Yeah.
just a little hack that I did. It wasn't the fault of the piping bag. What was the problem is that the batter I was using for the cookies was extremely fluid. I think I overbeat the batter.
Or not.
Which is a rookie mistake, I think. I think I overbeat the batter, and it was very, very fluid. So when I cut the corner of the bag, it all just splattered. It all splattered right out onto my baking sheet, and that was a disaster. Now I made 2 batches. That was the batch number 2, where this gloopy mess was going on. Batch number 1 was good, and the shapes came out fine, but they lacked any. I don't think I put enough sugar. To be fair, the recipe did not really make it clear exactly how much sugar to add. It was very much like add 1/3 of the sugar and keep stirring.
Oh, I hate when they do that.
1/3 of the sugar and keep stirring. Like it was just hard. I thought it was a little hard to follow. Maybe a different recipe would be an easier time. Sean, do you want to know how this all turned out? Where these macaroons ended up?
I've been waiting weeks for this.
So I threw the gloopy mess of half the macaroons and the hardened, non-sugary other half of the macaroons into the oven to bake while I prepared the buttercream. The buttercream is still a mystery to me, Sean. It's still a mystery to me. I don't know how I screwed it up.
It has like 2-3 ingredients, depending on how you make it.
It was, again, I really feel like it was the recipes here that was very confusing. I added I don't know how much. I don't want to say how much butter I added. I want you to say how much butter you added first, and let me see if mine was in the ballpark range.
It depends on how much quantity you made. I can tell you from my recipe, which if I were a competent host, I would have had in front of me already, but instead I'm stalling while I open it. I did half a cup, one full stick of butter. And three-quarter cups of powdered sugar. It's just butter and sugar, essentially.
Sean, that is exactly what I did. I added 1 full stick of butter. I added sugar. I don't know how it was a very wet. It was like a very wet consistency that buttercream should never be.
Yeah, no, mine was loose. It wasn't wet, but it was loose. It was
loose. It was loose. Did you add the food coloring to your buttercream?
No, I added food coloring to the macaroon itself.
To the macarons. Okay, that might have been my mistake. I added a lot of food coloring to the buttercream and the macarons, but I added a lot more to the butter. I think that's probably why it became really wet and loose.
Yes.
I thought that was what I was supposed to do.
No.
I also have to say, and I want to give a big shout out to the Reddit community, the subreddit. There's a whole subreddit for macaroons, Sean.
Yeah.
Our macaroons. It's actually it's a neat place. I ended up subscribing to them, so there was a positive thing that came from this experience. But ultimately, at the end of the day, these macaroons went into the oven and they barely made it out alive. They went straight to the trash, Sean. And that was the end of my macaroon adventure.
So it's a DNF, did not finish?
So here's why. I didn't even apply the buttercream because the buttercream was too wet.
Uh-huh.
Batch number 2 of the macaroons were so flat and it looked like a job. And I tried desperately to separate the flat, wet macaroon batter into things resembling cookies, resembling the cookies.
Wait. How did you pour the whole sheet full of batter and bake it?
Well, that's that. Remember, I said when I
Yes,
cut the
okay.
piping
Oh, I
back,
assumed you
it
had
just
like
went
cleaned it
everywhere.
up and redone it.
Went
No,
everywhere.
you just baked it as a big chunk and hoped to cut cookies.
I very much tried to separate it, but it was
Oh
so
my god.
it was so wet, like liquidy, that it just kept conforming back into itself. So I thought, you know what? I'll put it into the oven, and when it comes out, then I'll separate
Well,
it.
at that point, you don't have a choice. Yeah.
At that point, it had stuck to the parchment paper, and I couldn't do really anything with it. So the other half still tasted like flavorless garbage. So I just threw them out. And if I had more time, I probably would have tried again. But I was out of time and ingredients. I had used up all of my almond flour, and I'll be damned if I'm going to Wegmans again to buy another $10 sack of almond flour.
No.
Also, I know last week we talked about I was gonna have I was gonna like document the whole thing using pictures and things like that, and I made space on my phone specifically for it. I did take 2 pictures.
Okay.
But everything just was happening so fast. As soon as I cut as soon as I cut the bag and the batter just spilled right out, it was just I was playing catch up at that point. I was playing from behind, and it was hard. It was a hard thing to do. So I didn't really do a good job documenting this whole thing, but I will say I will continue with the baking adventures. This has not
Deterred you?
deterred me. This has not caused me to give up on my baking dreams, my baking goals. I already have a project in mind for the next baking adventure.
Great.
I'd like to make homemade bagels from scratch.
I would like to see you make homemade bagels from scratch.
So you know what? I will revive the dream, and I will try to document that process and maybe throw it up on the Insta or something. And
yeah, I think what we're gonna do for the next baking challenge is I'm gonna get a GoPro and strap it to your forehead.
Oh, that would be,
because we don't want to miss a moment of this.
That would be interesting. I think the strongest advantage, or the strongest strategy I could say going into baking is you need your mise en place. You need to have everything ready to go beforehand.
Yeah.
That's everything measured, everything laid out. That makes things like a ton easier. This could have been a larger disaster if it hadn't been for that. I will say my biggest mistake at the end, I think, was overmixing. I think I overmixed the batter of the cookie, and that's what made it so smooth and. Well,
let me ask you a question about that.
Loopy.
Because essentially, when you make a macaroon, the French. We made them the French way. There is an Italian way to make them, but the French way, it's a meringue base. Is essentially what you're doing. That's when you're whipping up the egg whites.
All right.
Were your egg whites stiff when you finished whipping them, or were they like watery?
So the recipe said that I had to whip them until they achieved a foamy consistency. That was the word they used, foamy. Sean, tell me what the hell that means. What would you describe as foamy?
I don't think that's a fair way to describe it, because what I would think is you just blend it until it's got little bubbles at the top. That's foam. It's foam.
That's how I interpreted it. And that's what I thought I was doing.
And that's why it was too wet. That part of it.
Yes.
I think you did two, and I'm just guessing, I'm not an expert. I think you did 2 things wrong, and that's one, is you have to whisk, at least my handheld beater, I had to do like 5 or 6 minutes on those eggs to get them stiff enough to hold the consistency. The other thing is, after you made the batter, either in the bowl or on the tray, did you let it sit? Or did it go right from the bowl to the thing to the oven?
It did not sit. It went right into the bag.
So the recipe I chose said to let it sit for 45 minutes. And what I found was, I made 2 batches of cookies because I only have 1 sheet. The first batch, the cookies came out a little bit flat, but because the batter had been sitting, by the time the second batch came out, they had a little more height to them. So I think that's the other thing that might have gone wrong, is it needed time to set, which you didn't have.
That actually was not, to my recollection, was not mentioned in the recipe that I used at all. I think I was following the recipe I was following. I believe was it was worded and structured, I think, in a way that was meant for expert bakers. Like, here's like you already know how to make macaroons. You've made them before, but here's like a best practices kind of thing.
Oh yeah.
rather than here's just you're a baking novice, you're a baking noob. Here's how to make this really complicated thing from scratch, which is what I needed. So, live and learn.
Yeah.
And maybe I'll make macaroons in the future. Baking is a science and an art, and it's all about learning from your mistakes and moving forward. So.
Well, it's about finding what you're good at, too. I mean, some people are good at pie. Some people are good at cakes. Some people are good at muffins. Maybe you're good at bagels. Who knows? Maybe macarons just aren't your thing.
Yeah. I didn't really feel like everybody that I mentioned baking macarons to, they're always like super like, oh, wow, like that's a really hard, like complicated thing. I think there's just a lot of steps. It's a multi-stepped and multi-skilled recipe. Like, for example, what you said, letting the batter set, like you just have to know that that's what you do. Whipping the eggs until they achieve a foamy consistency. You have to really be able to look for that and identify that foaminess to it. So,
yeah, the steps weren't hard themselves. It was doing them exactly right that was a challenge. And I agree with that. This is a detail-oriented recipe.
Yes. Macarons are a very demanding cookie. Yes. They are. They want your full attention and your full, constant attention. I feel like, and maybe next time they'll come out the way I want them. But I did see that your macarons they looked pretty competent. You didn't show me a full picture. You kind of
because I didn't want to reveal the results.
Blocked out the full reveal there, but they looked like they were pretty good.
Matt, would you like to hear my story?
Yeah, let's hear your story.
So this story begins. So I used a recipe from delish.com called Easy French Macarons, and it was easy. This journey began where all good journeys begin, at Bed Bath & Beyond. I splurged for the piping bag. I also picked up a sifter because one of the tips on the recipe said you have to sift the powdered sugar and almond flour to eliminate clumps before putting it in. I also picked up a silicone spatula because I thought it looked fun and I wanted one. Now, I came in and I started to make the recipe, and I do have a little photo journal I'm going to share. People should check out the video version here because I did check it out. I had two little helpers because I'm babysitting my mother's dog this week, so I had the cat and the dog helping me out there. And so I went ahead and I started baking, and then I realized I didn't have enough powdered sugar, so I had to go to the supermarket and get some powdered sugar. I had to go to the Geisler's and get some powdered sugar, and there's a photo of the powdered sugar in my car. I felt like an idiot. I hate when that happens. Step one was the sifting, and I got to tell you, Matt, it sucked. This photo isn't right, but it took forever. So this was where I got lazy and gave up. I said, screw it, I'm not sifting all this, so I just dumped it in.
Yep, I didn't sift my flour. I admit it. I
totally
freely
unnecessary.
admit it.
See, Here I am.
That was one of those steps that I felt like it was a little too precious. I was like, this is not necessary. This is just like
You're going to blend it so much anyway. I don't know what's the problem.
Exactly. Like a precocious chef would be sifting their flour and their sugar. I was just like, I'll just dump them in, mix them up.
And truthfully, I don't think it made a difference.
Yeah.
Here I am whipping up those egg whites, getting them nice and foamy.
So you used a hand mixer. Okay.
Did you do it by hand?
No. I used a KitchenAid.
Oh, you have a KitchenAid. Okay. Yes, I do not have a KitchenAid.
That might have led to the over mixing because I was just able to let it just keep going for a long
fair
time.
Fair enough. This was my pink batter.
Nice.
My pink cookie batter with my silicone spatula, and everything up to that point went well. There's my cookie sheet with all of the nice round macaroons on it, spread out by the piping bag. They had a good consistency to them. No, I'm not going to show you those, but I am going to show you. So this was the cookies coming out of the oven. And that was my second batch, and I was very happy about that because they actually call that, see that little sort of crumbly bit at the bottom of the cookie, that sort of ring around it? That's called the feet of the macaroon.
The feet, yes, I learned that from the subreddit.
And that's what you're looking for in the cookie. All in all, I genuinely would say I didn't have any major problems. I mentioned the first batch came out a little bit flat. I don't think I needed another minute on them in the oven, and also, like I said, I think the batter needed to sit longer. That was the big difference. The piping bag really came in handy. I'm just trying to think if there's anything else notable about the experience. There really wasn't. All I can say is that, let me grab a good one off my plate here. There is my macaroon. Look at that. We'll get that up real close on camera.
That is a really good looking macaroon.
It's competent.
Especially for a first attempt. Yeah.
It's competent. I mean, here
I would say so. Give it a little try. Yeah. How did it come out?
There you go. And there's the kind of inside. You can see it. It's got the crispy outer shell. It's soft in the middle. The buttercream is very sweet. I honestly think they taste nice. Now, I do have to confess something, Matt. I've never actually
bought those macaroons.
Yes, I went to France and bought them. No, I've never actually eaten a real macaroon like from a bakery. I have no idea how they're supposed to taste.
Okay.
So
the only macaroons I've bought, I have had macaroons like once, I think, but they weren't made by an official baker. They were like kind of like the store-bought kind, and they weren't very good. So I've never had a true bakery macaroon either. But that looks good. Now I wanted to point out a really pro move that I saw that you had in your video there. I noticed that you when you were baking, you I don't know if there's a name for it. You used some of the cookie batter to make like a weight on your on the corners of your baking sheet. Is that something you learned? Did your recipe say to do that, or is that just from prior baking experiences?
I don't usually bake with parchment paper, and so it actually did say here in the recipe itself to do that.
Yeah, my recipe said that to do that as well. I would have if my piping bag hadn't exploded all over my baking sheet. I think also doing that. Now you used a proper piping bag.
Yes.
For your macaroons, which is how they got the shape and consistency that was desirable.
It's very hard to, well, as you said, I mean, you baked the whole sheet, but to get those round cookies, you can't really do it with a spoon. You do need a piping bag to get them round.
I think I may have just mismeasured the cut. I think I cut too much of the piping bag. I think you're really just supposed to get the little, like you're supposed to nick the corner a little bit. And I cut like a good 2-3 centimeters in, just like basically the whole side corner of the bag.
Yeah, but I don't think even with any size, I think that loose batter was
you're right. Yeah, it was extremely loose.
Because you can't control it if it's flowing too fast.
No, that really was the problem. Now my recipe said that the batter should have the consistency of lava.
Yes, mine said that as well.
What does that mean? What is the consistency of lava?
It's thick to the point where not so thick you hold up a spoon and it stays on the spoon, but just a little looser than that. So it slowly falls off the spoon.
Okay.
Have you ever done mine was the consistency of have you ever seen a sand scrub at a Bath and Body Works or something like that, and it's a thick gritty goo?
Okay.
That was what mine was like.
Yeah, that mine definitely did not hit that.
If you put it on an incline,
it was way looser.
It would barely move, but it would move.
Mine was very loose. It was
Yeah, I think it's those egg whites, to be honest with you. That and letting it set.
Yeah. I think the egg whites I firmly believe are what did me in. And it was just over beating them, over whipping them.
I will say that if anyone out there is listening for baking advice, please don't, because we don't have any. But I will say for the $5 or whatever, investing in a piping bag is not, if you plan to continue to bake, I think it's a good investment. I'll just show you this. This is a birthday cake I made for my grandmother the other week. And I was able to pipe out her name and little stars and a little ring around the cake because I had the piping bag.
So, that's very nice.
So I a piping bag really does, if you plan to continue to bake, it's worth a little bit of investment to do that.
Yeah. Now, did you opt for the reusable piping bags, or did you get the?
It's very funny you mention that. I splurged like I'm terrible for doing, and got the OXO Good Grips reusable silicone piping bag thing. And the thing is, I'm kind of like iffy on it. Shut up, Alexa.
Does Alexa think you would need to buy another piping bag?
Yeah, she's literally reading off like, here, all the product. Would you like to buy?
What a world we live in.
Ugh, gross. I will say, I think they're easier to use. You have a lot more control than just a bag because of the way they're put together, but they are awful to clean. They are a pain to clean because almost none of it's dishwasher safe. And then it like sticks in all the nooks and crannies, and frostings and stuff are greasy, and they pipe nice, but they're a pain to clean. I would at least try the disposable ones, and then if you think you're going to use them a lot or would prefer something with more control, then get don't go right to the reusable ones, is my advice.
Yeah. I need to show myself that I will bake more often in order to invest in a legitimate piping bag. Right now, it's on my Christmas list. I put it on the list. Like a reusable piping bag, because I do think that's a better route for financially. It's also it's better for the environment. And but I really need to, before I like truly desire one, I need to bake more. Right. I need to like get in the kitchen and start doing it more often, because then I'll be like, okay, this is worthwhile. This is something that I'll actually use rather than something else that'll just sit in my pantry or something.
Yep.
Or in a kitchen drawer. But yeah, that was our macaroon experience. Yours, I guess, if we had to pick a winner of that challenge, I mean, I think this would really finish. Not even be close. Yeah,
I'm winner by default. I would say.
I'd say I finished. I finished the I was done with those macaroons.
You did it.
I did both of the things. I just didn't I didn't stick the landing at all.
Hey, I give you a lot of effort for trying. It's not an easy thing to do. I could have messed it up at plenty of stages, and frankly, they're not amazing. They're just complete on my side. On a 1 to 10 scale, I would probably rate them a 6 or a 7, not knowing what an actual macaron is supposed to taste like. So
yeah, it's kind of it's a hard that's a hard thing to measure. Ideally we'd have a third party person that would
well, I will say
be able to determine this for us.
I'm pretty sure if you like had never heard of a macaroon in your life and you like just came upon my plate of them and just ate one, you'd probably be like, hey, that's pretty good.
That's okay.
Because what you're comparing it to this fine French baked good that's been around since the 16th century. You know, I mean, it's got quite a legacy to compare to. If mine's just like some baked good I just made up, and it's sweet and it's cookie and it's, it tastes good.
See, there is a downside here to being a macaroon expert. Like if say you developed your macaroon talent and really went out there and started cranking out the best macaroons in town, and you gave them to your coworkers, you gave them to your neighbors, you'd become the macaroon guy, and they would be like, Sean, why don't you bake macaroons for the Christmas party? Sean, why don't you bake some macaroons for the cookout?
I would actually be okay with that.
I would not want to be the macaroon guy. It's I think it's just way too tedious and expensive, really. Like the almond flour, you can't even use regular flour. You have to go out and buy a special kind of flour. These are a very high maintenance cookie.
Yeah, I've got all this cream of tartar I'm not using.
Yes.
What am I gonna do with all that?
I still don't even know what that was. I was hoping to look it up on the show. Because I'm sure a lot of people out there have no idea what this
is. Do you
want
to know what it is?
I had to go and buy it.
Because I can tell you what it is.
Some kind of chemical thing.
It's a dry, powdery, acidic byproduct of fermenting grapes into wine. It's potassium bitartarate.
That sounds like a made-up word.
You add it when you're beating egg whites to speed up the creation of foam and help stabilize the structure of the minuscule air bubbles you're whipping up, like for meringue pie, meringue cookie, angel food cake. snickerdoodle
So this is
cookies.
it's really just for producing a meringue, really.
Well,
And
anytime
that is
you're
essentially
whipping
what you're
egg
doing.
whites.
Uh,
So you got a lot of...
Potassium hydrogen tartrate.
Sounds good.
Well, okay. Now we know what that is. We know what the cream of tartar is.
I love it.
Yeah. As soon as I'll cop to it here. As soon as I saw cream of tartar in the recipe, I imagined I really thought it was just something I was going to find in the dairy aisle. I went there and I looked for it. Didn't
Like
have it.
tartar sauce?
No, like cream. It was the
cream
that
of.
yeah, because it was cream of tartar. I was like, okay, that's probably a cream. So I asked the person at Wegmans where the cream of tartar was, and he led me to the spices aisle, and I was very shocked at that. So
yeah, it's a misleading name.
I was very confused, but conveniently enough, it was right across the aisle from the almond flour, another ingredient that had I not used all of it on this recipe, I would probably just ditch, because why would I need almond flour again in the near future? So
now I'm going to look up what other recipes you can use almond flour for.
Well, I would guess it would probably be pretty good in muffins, like if you're making like really anything that is almond flavor.
Well, it says here, almond flour is a popular alternative to traditional wheat flour because it's low in carb, packed with nutrients, and has a slightly sweeter taste.
I don't believe that.
Well,
I don't believe. I mean,
it's gluten-free.
Okay. How could it be? How could it be lower in carb? Almonds. I don't know. I guess it could. I could see your point.
It's like
I
almond
keep
milk.
thinking it's just like flour with added almond material, but it's like flour that's literally made from almonds.
Yeah,
So,
it says
like
here, in most baking recipes, you can simply replace regular wheat flour with almond flour.
Oh, so okay. So next time I make chocolate chip cookies, I want to throw in almond flour. But the problem is that it's more expensive than regular flour.
Healthy things usually are more expensive than bad for you things. Be warned,
that's always true. Yeah.
It does say, because almond flour lacks gluten, baked products made with it are denser and flatter than those made with wheat products. So keep that in mind.
Ain't that the truth?
Well, man,
yeah,
that's our baking challenge. I think we got to do more of these.
I agree. I did have fun, despite the end result wasn't the best. And you know what? Silver lining, when I was done with the macaroons, I needed to prove that I could bake something, so I whipped up chocolate chip cookies really fast. They came out great. They were tasty, and I don't regret that part. I don't really regret anything in the challenge. I think it was quite easy to identify where it had gone wrong. I think the buttercream was screwed up. Now in retrospect, I think it was the food coloring that did me in. I don't think I was supposed to add food coloring to the buttercream, and I added a lot of it. And of course the piping bag incident and overwhipping those eggs. Yeah,
well, you learn, and I will say, Matt, I'm never making macaroons again because I don't care for them and they're a pain to make. So I can say I did it, and that is that.
Yeah, that's that.
But I think
that's the end of that chapter.
I think our next baking challenge, we need to find something that can be made end to end in an hour, and then you and I live stream ourselves do the show while baking.
I think that sounds like a plan.
I think that would be fun, and then we have it's happening in real time, and then we have the live results. But we'll see. We'll get to that. Okay. Before we do that, though, Matt, we've obviously got some time left in this episode. And the exciting thing is, next week's episode is going to be the winter movie draft. If you can believe it, we've got another draft coming up. It will be our 7th, I believe, that we've done.
Are we really? League. We're really at number 7?
I truly believe so. Yes, if you can believe it. We just wrapped up the summer. We've got 30 new movies we're going to be auctioning off to our 6 returning teams. Matt, where would you like to begin? You can go online and see who won. Actually, do you want to do like a pre-reveal of this year's trophy?
Sure.
I won't show you the name.
It's like the Lombardi trophy. Yeah.
Here we go. This is the trophy. There we go. Where can I put it, and it's in the camera. There we go. Look at that.
Oh, wow.
This beautiful
nice
gold
one.
trophy is going to the winning team.
Already
Already engraved, ready to go. It's made of solid plastic and real high quality. It's dusty. And so this will be given out on Sunday. I'm very excited, Matt. To our winners, first-time winners in the league. Hint.
That's right.
But before we get to that, Matt, I would like to take this opportunity with you to preview the 30 movies we'll be auctioning off, and we'll give some of our early thoughts as our teams work out their strategies and the folks at home get excited for what's coming later this week. How does that sound to you?
Okay, I'll try my best here, but...
You're going to do great. We'll go through all 30 here. Now, we only have about 30 minutes, so we probably won't talk about every one of these movies, but feel free to stop me at any time when you have questions or we want to discuss. The first movie on our list coming out October 4th is Joker, with Joaquin Phoenix from the DC Comics.
Now, Sean, I have to ask a logistics question here.
Yeah, please.
If Joker is coming out tomorrow,
yes,
and the draft is on Sunday,
what
we'll already know
gives?
how much it's done. We'll know how it's doing in the box office and stuff. So is that what's the deal with that? What's the deal with that? Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess it's a little bit different. I don't know if is this something that we've done before?
This is something we've done several times before. And it's a matter of calculators because we were supposed to have the draft this past weekend and then we moved the date. My theory on this is, right, everybody knows how, because the opening weekend numbers the first week numbers will already be out, right? Anyone on any of our teams can Google it. It's public information. It's not like one of you knows that box office and the rest of you don't. You know what you know. Buy it or don't. You know what I'm saying? It's
okay.
I don't really see a problem with that.
Yeah, I guess you're right there. I guess it's just that you make these bids on movies. Like I'm saying, all of the net money that it has earned already. Yeah, I guess that makes it's not the final count. It's not like you're just bidding to get all this money.
But then again,
you should be able growing.
You should be able to guess where a lot of these movies are going. And like I say, I'll just come right out and say it. Right now, they're projecting a record opening weekend for the month of October for Joker, about $85 million, which is pretty solid. Now, some teams are going to disagree. How much farther over 85 does it go? Does it go to 100? Does it go to 150, 200? What are the legs on it? What does that mean for what you're going to bid on it? It's the first movie. Are you going to spend all your money on the first movie? I still think there's a lot of opportunity there, even though we know what the opening weekend's going to be.
Yeah. All right. So that's the Joker starring, or just Joker. Starring Joaquin Phoenix. Joker.
Phoenix. Yes.
I guess I'm going to ask this for a lot of the movies. Are you planning on going to see Joker?
Matt, I didn't see any of our Summer League movies. And no, I don't plan on seeing Joker. Not at all.
It's on track. It's interesting that it's a DC movie, but it's on track to almost kind of make like Marvel-like money. Is that a fair assessment?
The interesting thing is how the DC movies perform in general. Because you've got Wonder Woman at the top, $412 million. You've got Shazam at the bottom, $140. Okay? Justice League, $229. Will it do Shazam numbers? Probably in that 140 range. Is it going to hit 200? I don't think so. And the only reason is because I think everyone who wants to see it's going to see it on the opening weekend. And I think that's why it's going to, and then how many people are going to see it in week 3 and week 4?
Right. Especially when it's competing with, I guess it's not really, it's competing with.
No, it's really not. I mean, that audience.
Nobody. There's
maybe
like
Zombieland, Double Tap is sort of that same, heavy male audience.
Terminator, Dark Fate.
At the first week of November. So
if people are actually going to see that, yeah.
You're in your 4th week at that point. So no, I mean, I could see it doing 120, 140. I think is probably about where it's going to land, but it also could, headwards of 160. It won't hit 200, is my guess. So yeah, you'll have the opportunity to pick that one up.
So we've got
The
We
Addams
got Joker
Family.
starting it out. Addams Family is the next one. The Addams Family.
Yes, based on the TV show, based on the movie, based on the TV show, based on the movie. It's animated. It's got Oscar Isaac, Charlize Theron, Chloe Moretz, Snoop Dogg does a voice in it. Maybe the dog, I don't know. And yeah, CGI animated film.
Okay.
I don't know if people still care about the Addams Family anymore.
Yeah, that's the issue that I'm kind of seeing in it. It's I don't even really know if it qualifies as nostalgia.
No, I would think anyone watching this has probably never heard of them.
It's kind of past that realm of nostalgia, and now it's just old. And I guess this is an attempt to try to make the Addams Family like relevant again, and maybe they'll get a spin-off TV show. Who knows? It's a family type movie. I always thought the Addams Family was kind of weird. I mean, I guess that's the point, right? It's just weird, kooky stuff. But if I'm going to take a family that thinks that it's Halloween all the time, I'll take the Munsters any day. So
okay, you're a Munsters guy.
I'm definitely in the Munsters camp. I felt that the Addams Family they were just over the top with the whole sadism stuff, like hurting themselves and hurting others. It was like the Three Stooges, but in a way where you just want to tell them like, get some help, like go like see somebody for about this. But I like the Munsters because the Munsters it was just like they just acted like a normal family. They just happened to be a Frankenstein and a ghost and a vampire and stuff. And I think the kid was a werewolf, right?
Yes.
The boy? Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. No, I mean, hey, look, I honestly, they made the Addams Family movie. It was a 1991 live action, and it was pretty good. I don't know what this is for. The other weird thing about this one is it's animated by a studio no one's ever heard of. You know, it's not like it's Illumination or Blue Sky or any of the animation companies that we're familiar with. This is, I think, their first sort of end-to-end CGI film.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. I don't really expect big things from it.
I mean, it's a kids' movie, right?
Coming out.
You know, we always underrate the attractiveness of kids' movies. And I think around this time, there's nothing else for kids. So don't dismiss it just yet. Would be my advice.
Do you think it would benefit more from like a pre-Halloween release, like a closer to Halloween release? It's coming out on the 11th. Maybe if they pushed it back a week.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how much difference it would make because it is Halloween, but at the same time it's not, you know?
Yeah.
And I think it's close enough.
Okay.
The idea is that they're putting it out on Columbus Day weekend, the 3-day weekend.
Oh, okay. Right.
And I think that kids are out of school, and I think that's the target.
That's the push. Okay. I just don't know how many kids see the commercials and are like, "Wow, I want to go see the Addams Family."
Oh, I don't think it's that. I think it's parents need something to do with their kids over a 3-day weekend. We'll take them to the theaters. I don't know what's playing. Just Addams Family. Okay, what are we gonna do? Take them to see Joker?
Take them apple picking. Apple picking's I think a much better alternative.
Apple picking the movie?
Now that's definitely next from the studio that brought you Playmobil the movie, which is also on our list.
Well, another great movie you could take the kids to is Gemini Man, starring Will Smith, coming out that same weekend, directed by the great Ang Lee. It is Will Smith fighting Will Smith. Jerry Bruckheimer's a producer. This is a big action film. Ang Lee's return since what was his last one? Life of Pi. Back in 2012.
That's right. Was it really? That was his last. That was
his last major. He did like a minor movie between now and then, but that was his last major.
Last major motion picture.
I mean, he really's only ever done 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 major pictures.
Okay. That's interesting. Yeah. I didn't know that. I think I think this one looks good for your action flick, action audience. I think it'll scratch that itch. It's got some sci-fi elements to it as well.
For sure.
So that's Gemini Man.
Yeah.
Are there any other big stars besides Will Smith?
In Gemini Man, well, it's Will Smith twice. You actually get two of them.
Right.
Clive Owen, I guess, is also in it. I mean, it's Will Smith.
It's Will Smith and like computer generated young Will Smith, right?
Right. And a bunch of other actors who aren't Will Smith.
Mm.
I mean, this is his vehicle. The question for me on this is, if you look at Will Smith's last couple original IP action films, Collateral Beauty did 31 million, Focus did 53 million. You can, I don't even know how far back you want to go, but I don't see this cracking 100. This will be a small movie, but this isn't going to be a gangbuster breakout film.
See,
this is one of those movies that'll play better 3 years from now on demand when everyone realizes how good it is.
That is 100%.
It's
that is actually what I was going to say. I was going to say in a world without Netflix or like instant movie watching platforms, this would have done like 90s. I think this would do gangbusters.
I think it's going to end up being like Tom Cruise, Live, Die, Repeat. Although the movie had they bounced between two names, that and Edge of Something, that everyone ignored in theaters. And then like a year later, everyone's like, whoa, what's this incredible Tom Cruise movie we've never heard about? And I think it'll be the same way.
Okay.
Next after that, we have Jexy, starring the dude from Workaholics, Adam Devine. A bunch of other comedians are in it. The sort of plot of it is that an AI life coach called Jexy on his phone helps Adam Devine's character get a new life, but it becomes a tech nightmare determined to keep Phil all to Jexy's self, even if it means ruining his chances of finding success. Basically, his phone falls in love with him and refuses to let him go. So sort of like a comedic Her.
Yeah, Her was the first one that I that was where my mind went first.
Yes.
Was Her.
Yes.
So that movie was interesting. I didn't see it. But I don't know. What do you think about this one?
I mean, it's directed by the guys who did The Hangover, Bad Moms, all of those sorts of funny movies. The issue is they've done Office Christmas Party, if you remember that one. The question is, does it break out or not? I mean, there's so many of these sort of PG-13 comedies these days that I just don't know if this one is interesting or star-powered enough to break out. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. I don't really expect much from this. Maybe it's not really my kind of movie, but it's interesting. It's quite a. Is Jexy the name of the AI?
Yes.
Its name is Jexy?
Yes.
You know what AI I really liked? You ever see the movie Flubber?
Yes, but I don't remember anything about it.
Starring the one starring Robin Williams.
Is there a different Flubber not starring Robin
There
Williams?
actually is.
Oh,
yeah,
that's
there's
confusing.
there's a movie from I want to say the 60s. I don't even know if it was called Flubber. I think it was the absent-minded professor, but the material he invents in the movie is Flubber. So I can't confirm that right now, but anyway, the little robot in Flubber, Weebo, I think is its name.
Oh, okay.
That was a really cool AI, and it was similar. Like I think it had a little crush on Robin Williams' character. That was one of my favorite movies as a kid, and not. I feel like it didn't get enough appreciation. But that was probably my favorite AI, and of course Rosie the Robot from the Jetsons.
Yes,
very well done. Oh, and the computer, Plankton's computer from SpongeBob.
Well, that's a fun one.
Got to give a shout out to Karen.
Who knows? Jexy may soon be on that list. We've got a couple more movies coming out the following weekend. We've got 2 sequels, starting with Maleficent, Mistress of Evil. Angelina Jolie is back, and this time it's personal. The next in the series of Disney live-action reimaginings. Interesting movie. The first one came out 5 years ago, made $241 million at the box office.
Sean, I think this one may be worth a look. It may be worth a look. Certainly not at the top of anyone's list, but this is an interesting one. I would be interested in picking this up depending on. I'm not gonna reveal my strategy on the show, but if I were to take the strategy of a bunch of medium-sized movies or mid-range movies, this would be one I would look at seriously.
It's a good one to surround a big movie with, right? If you have a big movie and 2 like this, you've got a good shot because you need those surroundings. I'll kind of give you a good range here, Matt, of where I think this movie is going to land, right? First Maleficent, 241. Dumbo, earlier in the year, 114. I think it's going to fall somewhere in there. Now, that's a $100 million range, but I think it'll do better than Dumbo and worse than the original. So in that sort of 180, 200 zone, I think is possible. But it's really hard to tell with these Disney live-action ones because you look at just this summer, right? Dumbo 114, Aladdin 355, Lion King 540. Sort of the worst in this series of live-actions reimagining that was recently released was Alice Through the Looking Glass, did $77 million. I don't know. I think it tops 100, and I think it's a solid pickup at that sort of $10 to $12 range in the draft.
Yeah, I think it could be a bargain, though. I still think it could be a bargain get.
I don't disagree. It's going to be interesting to see. My concern is it's been 5 years since the last one.
My prediction is that it'll be overlooked. It'll do fine in the box office, but I think it'll be overlooked as a whole in our draft. That's my prediction going in.
I think that's totally fair. I mean, this is the 4th live-action Disney movie this year, you know? So I think you're right. I think you could get it for a pretty good price.
Yeah.
Also coming out that weekend, Zombieland 2 Double Tap. The gang is back. Woody Harrelson, Emma Stone, Jesse Eisenberg, Abigail Breslin return to the Zombieland franchise. The first Zombieland movie came out 10 years ago, grossed $75 million, which is about 90 adjusted for inflation. Matt, no idea why they're making this.
I think I will defend Zombieland. I think it had great cult success.
It's a good movie. I've got no problem with that.
So also Adam Driver is hot right now. Popular.
Adam Driver is not in this movie. No.
Adam Driver's not in this movie.
You're thinking of Jesse Eisenberg.
No. What movie? There's with Bill Murray. It's a zombie movie. Yeah? Adam Driver is in it.
Yeah, that's what you're thinking
Adam Driver's not in this movie?
No, he's not in this movie. He wasn't in the original movie.
Now you got me Googling Adam Driver Star Wars. Or Adam Driver
don't search Adam Driver Star Wars. That's something else.
Zombie movie.
Yeah, you're mistaken.
The Dead Don't Die. That's the name of the movie I'm thinking of.
I think you made that up.
The Dead Don't Die came out in 2019. So that movie is already out. It did terrible. Got I got a 56 on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah, we've seen worse.
Yeah. All right. That was the movie I was thinking of. I thought that movie was this movie. Whoop. All right. So Zombieland, not really necessary. I think they're banking on the cult success of the original.
Yeah, and just throw it at the wall. You know, it's one of those movies that if you can make it for a low enough budget, then it makes a moderate amount at the box office and you walk away with a profit. I mean, to me, this is a $50, $60 million movie. I wouldn't pick it up in the draft, but someone has to. So, again, if you can get it for the right price.
Yeah.
Continuing on here, we skip a couple weekends, go all the way to November 1st, where we are looking at the latest in the Terminator franchise, Terminator Dark Fate. Linda Hamilton returns to the franchise. as well as James Cameron as producer. Arnold Schwarzenegger is in this one as well. You may remember the last movie in the Terminator series, Terminator Genesis, which was released 4 years ago, made $89 million at the box office.
Oh, this is. Will they ever stop making Terminator movies? That's the question.
Nope.
Will we ever see a day where the Terminator franchise is finally put to rest?
And do you want to know why they are going to keep making them? Terminator Genesis was made on a budget of about $155 million.
Yeah.
It made
that's the trend
million
I was going to say. Mm-hmm.
In the U.S. It made $350 million global.
Oh.
So they made a ton of money on it.
Yeah, and as CGI just improves, it's just easier and easier to make a movie like this.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So predictions for Terminator Dark Fate?
I think Genesis killed the franchise, and I just think there's no one is going to care.
Yeah.
This is a sub $100 million movie.
I agree.
I mean, people will see it, but it's going to be in that. I could see as low as 40 on this. I'd be shocked if it topped 100.
Yeah. No, I think you're spot on with that prediction with Genesis killing the franchise.
Oh, for sure.
Totally agree with that. All right.
Next up, Dr. Sleep, November 8th. It is a Stephen King, based on the 2013 novel by Stephen King. It's a sequel to The Shining, set several decades after the events of The Shinings. It stars Rebecca Ferguson and a bunch of other people I've never heard of. Who are all these people? I don't know.
Now, Sean,
have you read this?
Yeah, I did. How did you know that? How did you know that was what I was going to say?
Matt, we're on the same wavelength here.
Damn. Yeah, it's like you read my mind there. That was a little scary. Yeah.
Your head.
I did. I read this. I read Doctor Sleep and The Shining back to back. It was a very good book. I mean, it's Stephen King. It's very hard to. I think it's very hard to dislike his writing style and his stories. This was, I thought, one of his better works in a long time. And this was a good read. I'm interested to see how it'll play out as a book. I mean, as a movie, how the movie version will play out. It looks like they're incorporating a lot of the scenes and imagery from The Shining, and there wasn't really that much. It's not really a spoiler. As a matter of fact, it says it right in the Wikipedia description. The main character of Dr. Sleep is Dan Torrance. It's the little boy from The Shining. He's all grown up now, and he is basically messed up royally from the events that happened in The Shining. He's turned to alcohol, and the book deals with most of the book is dealing with his alcoholism, and I think the alcoholism is really the more of the villain in the book than the ethereal monsters. Like there are these vampire creatures that try to like eat your what's called the shine of innocent people. That's what makes them become immortal. If you read The Shining, you would know like the shine is like this ESP type gift that very certain people have. But really it's really about him battling his alcoholism, which is why I think it's going to be an interesting movie to watch. So, I don't know how much they're going to really cover that aspect of it in the film. But Ewan McGregor plays Danny Torrance.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah, Ewan McGregor is the star. Rebecca Ferguson is Rose the Hat. You never heard of Rebecca Ferguson? These are very known people.
I don't think so. Who is this Ewan McGregor? No, again, Matt, that all may be true, but the only thing we care about here in the movie league is how much money it's going to make. And fortunately,
we're all about the money, aren't we?
I don't know about this one. This one could be a surprise. I'm going to peg this one up for a surprise, and here's why. it's the only sort of horror thriller coming out near Halloween. I know this is after Halloween. But it's the only one for weeks before and after. So if you kind of want your sort of horror thriller fix, you're gonna get down, cat. Jesus, he wants to eat the macaroons, and the cat can't have any macaroons.
He's after my macaroons.
Damn cat! It sounds like a commercial for macaroons.
It does.
Like the Trix Rabbit.
The Lucky
Silly
Charm.
cat, macaroons aren't for you.
Yeah.
And I think Stephen King has historically not done well at the box office. Other than It and It Chapter 2, his box office numbers are not great. So
yeah.
I mean, he's had a few success. The Green Mile, the original The Shining, Carrie, Misery, and then it sort of just falls off a cliff. So I have no idea what to predict on this one.
It's hard to predict because so many of those movies that you mentioned, they don't even really follow the source material. I guess The Shining is probably the best example of that. They usually take very strong liberties with his work, so it will be very hard to predict. But
for me, it all comes down to the marketing, right? Do they sell this as a sequel to The Shining, or do they sell this as a scary movie from the mind of Stephen King? Those are very different movies for very different people, depending on how you sell it.
Yeah, I would err on the latter. That
I would hope.
I don't think they really can. At this point in time, I think The Shining, while it is a legendary horror film, I don't think it really resonates the same way with the modern audience as it once did.
No one cares.
Yeah.
Simply put. I think. Anyway. All right, next up, we've really got to start chugging through these. Charlie's Angels. We're rebooting it again. This time written and directed by Elizabeth Banks. Your three Charlie's Angels: Kristen Stewart, Naomi Scott, and Elizabeth Banks. Now, the previous Charlie's Angels films, I'm going to try and see. The other reboot came out in 2000, $125 million at the time. They also did Charlie's Angels Full Throttle, which also did about $100 million at the time.
Yeah. Oh man. I don't know where to begin with this one.
I mean, I think if it looks, the question is how fun does it look? I think if it looks like a real serious, like, action film, I don't think it has much appeal. I think if they bring some humor into it, and I think Elizabeth Banks writing, directing will do that. I would be a little optimistic on it.
Yeah, especially in today's world, today's culture, this seems like a very much of a desirable movie for a lot of people out there.
I think this is an easy, hey, let's go to the movie this weekend. What do you want to see? I don't know. We can all enjoy Charlie's Angels,
Yeah. This is definitely a crowd pleaser movie.
Yep.
So I think it'll do pretty well. I'm gonna go on the side of buy. This fits up there with for my money. I'll up with Maleficent.
Yeah.
Like if I got some extra cash left over at this point in the draft, which I definitely will. The only problem is that it's early, and
there are a lot of good movies.
There are a lot of other movies that I would rather. Yes, exactly. I'd rather invest in. So I think personally, as a coach in this league, this one would probably get overlooked. But if it were later in the draft and I had cash to spend, I'd throw it at Charlie's Angels. Sure.
Also coming out that weekend, Ford versus Ferrari, starring Matt Damon and Christian Bale, following the determined team of American engineers designing the Ford GT40 for the 1966 24 Hours of Le Mans race in France. Early positive reviews from critics, really dynamically shot racing sequences, strong performance from the two key actors. My question becomes, right now on Rotten Tomatoes, 89%. My question is, does anyone care? I mean,
I think so.
We live in the age of the franchise. And I just think, like, what pull does this movie have for folks unless you like racing, which is a narrow portion of the audience?
This looks like a movie that would have opened in select theaters.
Yes, it's an Oscar type movie, right?
Yes, this is like a niche type film. At least that's what the storyline and that's what the plot kind of indicates to me. Is like it screams like niche movie, and
it's not even, biographical movies are always questionable, but it's not like this is a famous story everyone knows. This is like obscure, so it's not even like, oh, I want to see how they do the movie of that thing we all know about. It's like, no, I don't know who these people are or what's going on.
Yeah, this is a story that is never told.
Right.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I bet it was probably based on a book that was written and totally forgotten about.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
Yeah, I don't really know how many people are going to go see this. I thought maybe the star power would carry it, but this is very much an Oscar movie. And if you look back on the Green Book, King's Speech, other very specifically crafted to be Oscar movies, Shape of Water and what have you.
Yeah, very few of those make a lot of money.
Right, because they're not for movies. They're not for money. They're for awards. So.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Up next, we're going to skip ahead to the weekend, to Thanksgiving weekend, when a lot of big movies come out. We've got two of them, starting with A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood, the biography of Mr. Rogers as portrayed by Thomas Hanks. 3-time Oscar winner? 4-time Oscar winner?
Sean, I really thought this movie had come out 3 times already.
You know what's funny is you're right. It's like a movie that's been talked about for a while.
Maybe that's it. This is a movie I really thought had been out at least 3 times. I don't know how Tom Hanks is going to pull off Mr. Rogers. This is a very weird casting to me.
Well, have you seen the trailer?
He doesn't look like Mr. Rogers. I don't think he sounds like Mr. Rogers.
Well, but hang on, though, because to be fair, he does not look like Walt Disney and played Walt Disney. It's never stopped him before.
He was, and he was terrible as Walt Disney. He was not Walt Disney. But that movie wasn't about him as Walt Disney. It was about Mary Poppins.
But that's the great thing about Tom Hanks. Tom Hanks could be like, yeah, I'm going to be Martin Luther King Jr. in a movie, and we'd all be like, Tom Hanks.
He's just going to fill. Yeah, he's a fill-in, and it's very clear that he's Tom Hanks just in this movie. But this movie is all about him as Mr. Rogers. So I don't know how he's going to pull it off. Why didn't they get Terry Bradshaw to be Mr. Rogers?
Where did you pull that name from? Of all the names you could have said, I would have bet $1 million you would not have said Terry Bradshaw.
He was really the first one that came to mind. Literally the first one that came to mind
after. I've never thought
after
about Terry Bradshaw ever in my life.
Think about him as Mr. Rogers. I think it fits. Who else would you get? Don Knotts? He's dead.
What?
Who would be a good Mr. Rogers?
Nobody. They shouldn't
Tom
make
Hanks?
This movie. Just let him be dead.
You want to know what the best option would have been?
What?
They should have spent millions of dollars painstakingly recreating Mr. Rogers.
There's enough footage.
CG.
Yeah.
From pulling his voice from the footage. Then you would have won some awards, and people would have flocked to the movie just to see how the hell they pulled it off.
Certainly would have gotten a lot of attention. You know who I would like to play Mr. Rogers? Paul Rubens.
Paul Rubens.
Pee-wee from Pee-wee's Playhouse. And other things. Paul Rubens has been in other things.
That is an interesting one.
Because Pee-wee is
I would have said
essentially
Jim Carrey.
Pee-wee is essentially the insane version of Mr. Rogers.
He is. Wow. I like that. I like where you're going with that. You know what? If Paul Rubens was playing Mr. Rogers, I think that this movie would pull a lot more. As of right now, I still think it's going to pull a lot. I think it's going to do pretty well because This movie has been talked about for a really long time. They're super into the marketing aspect of it. Um, Everybody knows Mr. Rogers. He's a household name, and it's Tom Hanks. It's Tom Hanks. So I think it's going to do super well. It's already got a 96 on Rotten Tomatoes.
I strongly disagree.
Okay.
And here's why.
I disagree.
And I will, and I have, and I'm going to.
But let's hear it. Let's hear it. Why do you think?
Tom Hanks's last couple of movies like this have done okay. Saving Mr. Banks. He wasn't the star of it, but certainly he was doing a similar thing. 83 million. Remember The Circle? No one does. It made 20 million. The Post did 81. The other thing, and I'm kind of torn because I think it goes both ways, because in a second we're going to talk about the other big movie coming out that same weekend. On one hand, it's good to be the other movie the weekend the big movie's coming out, because then you get kind of people who refuse to see the big movie. But at the other hand, I don't understand who this movie is targeted for. It's not targeted to kids, really, but anyone who's nostalgic for Mr. Rogers is going to be too old is not going to want to see this movie. So, like, I don't think there's an audience for it, to be honest with you. Like, our generation, who spend more money at the movies than anyone else, is not nostalgic for Mr. Rogers, because we were too young. It was already off the air by the time we were born.
Yeah, but we still know who Mr. Rogers is.
But enough to pay to see a movie?
No, it's not targeted for our generation. Our demographic is not the demographic that's showing up.
And so my concern is the demographic that does care about Mr. Rogers
is just
historically doesn't spend a lot of money at the movies.
Yeah. So is this another Oscar bait type movie?
Million %, yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. No, this is a small film. And I think it'll do 60 to 70. It's not, I don't think it'll crack 100. I mean, Sully did 125, and that was a pretty big movie for him.
Cost effective.
I mean, even Captain Phillips only did 107, and that was a pretty big movie for him.
Think about how, I mean, it's literally just Tom Hanks sitting in a room with a red sweater. So think about how much money they didn't spend at this movie.
And frankly, I think a little bit of the wins out of its sales, as you mentioned, I feel like we've been talking about it so long, nobody is actually excited now that it's here. But Matt, we've got to talk about its competition coming out that same weekend. Potentially the biggest movie, one of the biggest movies of the draft this year, Frozen 2. The main cast is back. They're ready to let it go. The original Frozen film brought in $400 million at the box office. The interesting thing about the first Frozen movie, Matt, is it only had a small opening. It only had about $67 million opening weekend, which is pretty small for a movie like this. But it also had one of the longest tails on a movie we've ever seen, making movie in its 8th week in theaters. It was sort of a slow building. The question is, this movie came out 6 years ago, if you can believe it. Is the magic still there for Frozen? For Frozen 2, where will we see it land? First one, $400 million. The question is, what does this one do? We know it'll do well, but how well?
Oh, I was going down the rabbit hole of Mr. Rogers memes. There's so many of them, but that's definitely for after the podcast. This is gonna make money. This is gonna make money no matter what.
No, it's gonna be gangbusters. Does it top 400? Does it do better than the original?
No, it doesn't do better than the original. At least that's what the history will have told us. You know what? It's going to do better than the original. I think it's going to do much better than the original. The history doesn't matter anymore. That's what everything from 2016 onward has told us. Frozen 2 is going to do much better than its original because now everybody has the name recognition. It's a giant movie. Every parent is going to take their daughters, their sons to go see this movie. Everybody wants to see Frozen 2. It's going to be cataclysmic, the amount of money that this is going to make.
Yes. I don't know if
it's going to have songs. It's going to have every kid on the block is going to want to be the first ones to see Frozen 2.
I don't know if it's going to do massively better than the first. I do think it'll do better than the first, mainly because Frozen has only gotten more popular since the movie came out. But Frozen is the highest grossing movie from Walt Disney Animation Studios, which is sort of their new CGI venture that started in 2007. So how much higher can it go? I don't know. Moana only did 248, Zootopia 341, and that was a pretty big hit. So does it top 500? I don't think so, but I think you're in that range. What it comes down to is a question of what do you bid for it? Over the summer, the most expensive movie that was purchased was Avengers Endgame at $67. The second was Toy Story 4 at $47, which did about $432, which would mean you'd purchase this in the $50 range based on what we did in the previous summer.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be a crackerjack movie. It's gonna be just oodles of cash up for grabs. So
I think this movie is a great value at $50. I think it's a good enough value at $60. I don't know how much higher I would go because it's not doing Avengers money. But if you can get this movie for $50 and you spend your other 50 pretty well, you got a great shot at winning this thing. I will say, because this winter, there's only 2 or 3 really big movies and the rest are just kind of okay movies. So you really got to own one of the big ones this winter.
This is definitely one to star as favorite. I would.
Oh, it's one of the 2 biggest movies this winter, and we'll get to the other here in a second. Next up, Knives Out. It's one of those, hey, let's see how many celebrities we can get in a single movie type movies. Written and directed by Rian Johnson, who you know from Star Wars The Last Jedi and Looper, among others. Daniel Craig, Chris Evans, Jamie Lee Curtis, Michael Shannon, Toni Collette, Don Johnson, Christopher Plummer. It's one of those sort of a bunch of stars caper type film. It's sort of like Clue. It's like Clue 2, the movie. Yeah.
This is one that I would really be interested in seeing. I don't think it's going to do a whole lot.
Absolutely not.
Really, really just kind of. I'm really gonna. Yeah, of all the movies on this list, I think I might be most interested for Knives Out.
I agree. You may be the only person who sees it though. That's a total skip for me.
Yeah,
not even worth it. I don't even think at like $7 it's worth it. This is gonna make no money. Next up, Matt, I know this is the one you're most excited for. Playmobil the movie.
All right. It is here. Playmobil.
Nothing else to say about it than that. Based on the line of toys.
This is their attempt to make the Lego movie again, but Playmobil is not Lego.
No.
Not even close. So I think this is going to be a wash.
I'm going to make a prediction right here, Matt. You can take this to the bank. Playmobil the movie will be the lowest grossing movie in the Winter League.
Wow.
That is my prediction.
That is a bold prediction.
If it gets released at all, it wouldn't surprise me if this actually got pushed in one of our rare needing a replacement situations.
I think it's going to be Jexy. I think Jexy, looking by this list, I think that's going to be the maybe Spies in Disguise. Well, we'll get there.
No, Spies in Disguise. I have a lot to say about that. Let's continue on later into December as we start talking about Black Christmas, brought to you by Jason Blum and the fine folks over at Blumhouse Productions. It's a horror movie around the holidays with an unknown stalker serial killer type deal. It's a remake of the 1974 film of the same name.
Yeah, this is like a recent trend, I think, making the horror Christmas movie.
Yes,
it's definitely a new, like a recent thing. I don't know how I feel about it though, but I guess it's fine. I just I never really associate the holidays with horror. Maybe there just like a large. There must just be a large horror movie audience that just craves horror all year round. I'm not like that. I'm very seasonal when it comes to horror, and right now is the horror season for me, and it ends October 31st. it ends up first, and
Yeah.
then I don't really have any desire to come back to it again until next year.
Agreed.
Christmas is not a time I associate with horror. It's a time I associate with like snowfall and fresh baked cookies and seeing family and friends. I don't really want to be terrified over the holidays.
Yeah, this is going to be an interesting one. I could see it cutting both ways. It's got an all-woman cast, directed by a woman, so it certainly has an angle. The issue is there are 3 huge movies coming out the following weekend, so whatever it makes in its opening is all it's going to make. So they better hope to really break out then. Coming out that same weekend, Jumanji: The Next Level, the sequel to the live-action Jumanji film from 2017. Jumanji: Welcome to the Jungle. The first one made $404 million at the box office. Quite a release. The main cast is all returning for this one. Matt, do you think the sequel can live up to the original?
The original did pretty well. The original got a lot of. It was very critically
huge
successful.
Breakout. We were all very surprised.
It was a sleeper pick. The first go around. Now my question is and I think this is the make or break for this film, is the entire cast returning?
Yes, and adding more members. But yes, the core 4 are back.
I think it'll do well. I don't think it's going to outsell the original, but I do think it's going to do it's going to do pretty well.
I mean, the original did 404. I could see this doing over 200, 250. I mean, it's going to be a solid hit.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. I just don't think it's going to. I don't think it'll surpass the original, and that's fine.
No.
But I do think it's a good pickup. It would be a good pickup, and now is the time in the draft where maybe you're thinking of buying your first movie. If you saved until this point, this would be a good one, I think, to add.
Yes. Yeah, I think this will complement one of the real big movies very nicely.
Mm.
Then we get on to Christmas. The Friday is the 20th. Then Wednesday the 25th, we've got Bombshell, which stars Charlize Theron. This is the film based upon the female Fox News anchors and their allegations against founder Roger Ailes. Charlize Theron is Megyn Kelly. Nicole Kidman is Gretchen Carlson. John Lithgow is Roger Ailes. A story literally ripped from the headlines will be coming out on that same weekend. I'm going to do all 3 of these and we can break them down. That also coming out that weekend, Cats, a live-action version of the musical from Broadway, starring a number of people, including Taylor Swift, Jennifer Hudson, etc. Also that weekend, of course, Star Wars Rise of the Skywalker, the 9th film in the Star Wars franchise, I guess. They've gone and messed with all the names of stuff, so I don't know what to tell you. Star Wars The Last Jedi did $620 million, but if you want to compare it, Solo only did $213. So quite a range there for it to fall into. Matt, how do you feel about these 3 movies? I think Bombshell will be obliterated and nobody will notice it.
I disagree.
It's not a Christmas movie. Who's going to go see this at Christmas?
Yeah, you know what? The release time is a little
buried.
Bizarre, but
it's buried.
You know who I think will go see it, and this doesn't really preclude anything, but I think it's going to be like a lot of like kids that are home from college. You'll see it with their parents type movie. I see that. I see that's kind of like the mainstay audience. I think it's a good. It would do much better if it wasn't on the Christmas weekend. That was probably its downfall.
I think it was purposefully buried at that time.
You also have it competed with.
You don't put it in the same weekend as Star Wars.
Yeah,
you don't. I'm sorry.
No, not if you want to make money.
No,
but I don't know if that's really the goal here, or if the goal is just to
release it and dump it and move on.
Yeah. We have Cats.
Cats. Okay, Matt. Here's what I'm going to say about Cats. Cats is the surprise breakout of the winter. Cats is going to make $1 trillion zillion. Is my prediction on Cats. It got so much buzz off of that initial trailer, right? You're adding a musical that was hugely popular and most people are aware of. It stars actual popular people like. It's got that weird CGI thing like Avatar had, where you're like, I kind of feel like I have to see this in theaters. And it's got virality to it. I think this movie is going to be very big. And I think this will be a steal in the draft because it's happening right before Star Wars, and everyone's going to be holding on to their money. And I think if you can get this movie for under $20, I think it's a steal.
Okay. I think I might.
Are you going to disagree?
I might disagree.
Okay.
I don't think a whole lot of people are going to see it because the trailer looks super weird. This looks like an odd movie with anthropomorphic cats. And
well, first of all, furries spend a ton of money at the box office. That's a fact.
That was who I was thinking of as like the definitely the target here, but I didn't know how large their population, how large massive. Their ranks had grown. So, oh man, I maybe there's some nostalgia for the musical, the Cats musical. But I don't know.
I think it's going to be so bonkers.
There's so many famous people in this movie.
That's what I'm saying, and it's going to be so bonkers, and it's going to
Taylor Swift is in this movie.
Everyone is going to go see it and then tell their friends how crazy it was and be like, "Dude, you have to see this movie." I'm telling you, word of mouth is going to blow this thing up.
There's so many. There's just so many.
Yep, the soundtrack is going to come out, and they're going to sell a ton of those.
James Corbin, Jennifer Hudson.
I mean,
Idris Elba.
Cats was
Ian
huge
McKellen,
at the time.
Judi Dench.
Huge.
Rebel Wilson. Jason Derulo.
And they're going to clean up a lot of the CGI stuff that looked crappy in the trailer. So it's going to look better. So anyway, that's my take on Cats. Don't sleep on it.
Yeah, and it's I think it's coming out at a good time. Because the people that are going to see Cats are definitely not. You won't really have a whole lot of crossover with the Star Wars people.
Well, and here's what people forget about what I think is going to help it is that Star Wars is everyone gets the midnight showing tickets. Star Wars movies don't have a long trail. So what happens the week after Star Wars comes out? That's when people are going to see Cats. This is going to have a big second and third week. I see this having several good weeks because people will, again, it's that word of mouth when The Greatest Showman is kind of like a musical comparison, I'd say, which did like 150 plus at the box office and was pretty big. It was a word of mouth thing, and people were seeing it in the 6th week in the theaters.
Yeah.
So, anyway, I've ranted on long enough about Cats, but that's my take on Cats. Let's talk about Rise of Skywalker, Matt. Obviously, this is a first. We've never done a Star Wars movie. I've traditionally kept them. We did Solo, but I don't really count that. We've kept these off the draft because I've always said they make too much money and it's not fair. But based on how sort of the Avengers and other things have done, plus how other Star Wars movies have done, we've included it this year. How do we think this one's going to do? As I mentioned, Last Jedi, 620, but Solo, 213.
Oh, it's going to tank. Nobody's going to see it. This is going to be a financial disaster. I would stay the hell away from Star Wars.
Okay.
That's my take on it. Come on, it's Star Wars. It's gonna destroy the every preconceived box office number we've had.
Hang on.
However, I will say, I think this is where I think that we saw a division with Last Jedi that I think the cracks are there, and I think it's only going to get bigger and bigger. Star Wars has become a lot more mainstream. And I think the Disney acquisition has pushed it in a completely different direction. So I think that it's still going to make a mint, of course, because it's Star Wars. But I don't think it's going to do I don't think it's going to do as well as Star Wars movies of the past have. It's obviously got a lot of hype generated around it. I think it's going to do better than, I don't know. I think it's going to do really well. Probably better than Force Awakens. Probably better than Last Jedi. Just because this is now the third in the trilogy, and now everybody's got to see it to fulfill their Star Wars need. But I think this is the point where the series is going to start to decline. And we saw that with Solo. Solo was a massive disaster. Uh, I think people are starting to get fatigue. A little bit of Star Wars fatigue is setting in.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it'll affect the numbers too much though, because I think people need to see the resolution for this trilogy. But after this, I think the bottom's going to drop out. My prediction.
I don't think this one is going to. I think people are tired of Star Wars. Legitimately, I do think
Yeah,
they are.
they're getting fatigued.
They
Yeah.
opened Galaxy's Edge at Disneyland, and very few people. They had a problem because not enough people showed up. I think The Last Jedi, as you pointed out, really did prove a stopping point in the franchise. As I mentioned, Last Jedi did 620. I don't think it beats Last Jedi, to be honest with you. I think it comes in just under that, 550. Close, doesn't beat it, is my guess. What it comes down to is, to me, there are 3 must-own movies in the draft this winter. Frozen 2, Star Wars, and one we haven't talked about yet, which we'll get to. I still think you need to buy this movie. I still think this is a huge movie. It's one of the biggest. But the draft has proven before, if you own the biggest grossing movie of the winter, doesn't mean you're going to win. Team got $850 million out of Avengers over the summer and didn't win. You know?
Yeah.
So it's a great movie to own. I'd buy it for $55. I wouldn't go to the 60, 70 range on this because I don't think it's going to get money to get there. And it would not surprise me if Frozen outgrossed it.
No, not at all. Not at all. I think Frozen would be a much better pick. Much better. Leaps and bounds better than Star Wars. And I mean, for the purposes of our draft.
Well, and what's good is these movies are well spaced out, right? So if you didn't get Frozen 2, you know what you're going for. You know,
right.
You'll have an opportunity to get a good shot at both.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if you budget the right way, you probably will. This isn't because it's happening in this back end of the draft, the second half. It's not the movie I think I would save up for.
Interesting.
It's not. I would probably. Yeah, I wouldn't want to let it go, but it's not one that I would, and it's one that I would want to have a dog in the fight for. It's not one that I would. I'll put it this way: I'm not saving all of my money to go top dollar for Star Wars.
Sure.
It's just not. It's just not.
Sure.
Not the way I want to run things.
It's going to do great. It's going to make a lot of money, and it's not going to hurt you to have it on your team. It's just you can't spend $70 on it and then use the other $30 to build a winning team because you're not going to have enough money left. That's what it comes down to. So we'll see what happens there. Coming out Christmas as well, we have Little Women, based on the book that has been adapted into a million different things. In this case, we have a fresh new take on the film, starring Saoirse Ronan, Emma Watson, Timothée Chalamet, Laura Dern, Meryl Streep. Written and directed by Greta Gerwig, who you may know from her successful film Lady Bird. That was her first directing debut, which she won the Golden Globe for. Yeah.
This one's fine.
Matt, I think that's exactly the way to describe it.
It's fine. Yeah, it is. This is one that I'm kind of counting on. Maybe not like right. It's coming right after Star Wars in the draft, so I'm counting on maybe people will have sticker shock after the after effects of bidding on Star Wars, and maybe they'll let this one slide by. And maybe I'll pick it up for, maybe I'll get an undersell on it and flip it for a little bit of an edge. But maybe that's what Spies in Disguise will do.
Maybe. Let's talk about Spies in Disguise. Matt, do you know anything about this movie?
I really don't.
Okay, great. Don't look it up.
We're
don't. Gonna play. Okay. There's actually like a viral challenge of this movie because the movie has a twist that doesn't make any fucking sense. So it stars Will Smith and Tom Holland. Will Smith plays a super spy, a famous super spy, Lance Sterling, who works with a young scientist, Walter Beckett, who is voiced by Tom Holland, to accomplish missions all around the world. However, there's a twist that happens to Will Smith's character in the movie. The whole first part of the trailer sets him up as the coolest spy on the planet until what happens? This is the viral moment. You're supposed to guess what the twist is.
He has to go in disguise.
Okay, the title did tell you something. That's true.
He's not really a spy. He's just disguised as one.
No. You can't guess it. That's what's crazy about this.
He dies.
No.
He is actually the bad guy.
No.
He was dead the whole time.
No, that's The Sixth Sense.
He is his father.
No.
He it was all a dream.
Okay, here we go. I'll hint you here because you're nowhere near this. He's working with a young scientist. Ooh, crazy science.
The scientist sends him back in time.
No, but okay.
Scientist sends him into the future.
No time travel.
The scientist clones him, and this movie is actually it's actually the Gemini movie, but the animated version of it.
No, it's not. Okay. He's in disguise though.
That'd be kind of cool.
He's a spy in disguise.
The scientist and they're the same person.
Okay, no, I'm just going to tell you because this is going to take forever. Will Smith, super spy, gets turned into a pigeon. I'm going to send you the link. You have got to watch the trailer. It's bonkers. Like they set up this whole thing to be like, oh, this super cool Will Smith spy, and then he gets turned into a pigeon, and that's the plot of the movie. Are you okay?
Oh, I have to see this movie, Sean.
Honestly,
I have to see
crazy.
This movie.
It's crazy. And
it's
so he
coming out on Christmas. Okay.
The second half of the movie being a pigeon and saving the world as a pigeon.
This is you know what? I would rather see this than Star Wars. I would seriously rather see this than Star Wars.
Yeah. It's crazy.
Yep.
So you got Will Smith, you got Tom Holland, animated kids movie around Christmas. I think you could have a pretty serious hit on your hands here. It's not crazy. It's not crazy. It's pretty family friendly. It's funny. You know, Will Smith is just a star. I think this could be a nice pickup for somebody. You got to have that kids movie, and we don't have a lot of good kids movies this winter. In fact, almost none.
Yeah. It is pretty light on the kids movies. I mean, really, after Frozen 2, what do you have? Playmobil the movie.
Yeah. Later on, we'll have Sonic the Hedgehog, arguably a kids movie, and then Onward would be the last one. So
this really is is the year of the furry, isn't it? Sonic the Hedgehog and cats and Will Smith the pigeon.
As a pigeon, yeah. So don't sleep on Spies in Disguise.
Okay.
I think you might have something there.
All right.
Let's keep chugging along here.
I'm really glad you told me that.
I am literally, Matt, if I send you the trailer, you promise me you're going to watch it?
I'll totally watch it.
Okay.
And it reveals this twist is revealed in the trailer. See, that was their mistake. I wouldn't have gone there.
The viral
I would have just let it happen.
The viral challenge is you send the link to your friend and you tell him to stop at a certain time code. Because that is the moment they reveal it. And it's literally like 2 minutes into this trailer. So you spend the first 2 minutes with Will Smith, super cool action spy. And then all of a sudden, you're like, okay, what happens next? And the thing is to get them to guess, and then you videotape their reaction when you keep playing the trailer, and then he's suddenly a pigeon. It's crazy.
Oh, it's awesome.
Absolutely insane. Next up, Bad Boys for Life. If you can believe it, it is our third Will Smith movie of the winter, and it is the third film in the Bad Boys franchise. And now you're saying, Sean, wasn't it like forever ago they made those? Yeah, you're right. 95 and 2003. Bad Boys 2 made $138 million, about 207 when you adjust for inflation. Both Will Smith and Martin Lawrence are back. It's produced by Jerry Bruckheimer, who did the originals. Michael Bay, unfortunately, did not return to direct. Yeah, there you go. Vanessa Hudgens is in it as well. I mean, certainly a heavy action movie for your mid-January.
Yeah. Did you ever see the original? Or I guess the source material?
No, the original Bad Boys I have not.
It was pretty good. I think I saw it. I can't remember. I
I
get
mean, it's
that
a lot of
mixed up
like action and
with all
explosions and
yeah, like
gunfire.
all the
And
other action
it's a
movies that
Michael Bay film.
around then. Yeah. This one wasn't Will Smith in the original Bad
He was.
Boys.
Him and Martin Lawrence were in the first two, and then they'll reprise their roles.
So it's how many movies is Will Smith in?
Three so far, and
Oh
we
my
still got a
God!
couple more to go through here.
He really needs. So it's not only the year of the furry; it's the year of Will Smith needing to
and technically
rent money.
He's in four movies because he's in the Gemini Man twice.
That's right. And he's also in.
And if you look at 2019, he was in Aladdin.
That's right. He's really like, is he going for some kind of Guinness record here?
Do you think he like needs the money or something? You think he's like in trouble?
Well, he's a Scientologist, isn't he?
Yeah, that's true.
Does that have something to do with it? Those things. I heard this is expensive.
And then what's crazy is before
he's got to get up to level 50.
Before Aladdin, his last movie was Collateral Beauty in 2016.
Right. And he also made Welcome to Earth. I guess that was a while back, right?
Are you thinking of After Earth?
After Earth.
Yeah, that was back in 2015.
Welcome to Earth is the line he says in it.
Yes. Everything on this planet has evolved to kill you. God, that movie's awful. Right. Yeah, I don't know what Bad Boys for Life is going to do. I mean, it's an aggressive action movie at a time when there isn't a ton of that in mid-January, but also mid-January is kind of a dumping ground for movies they don't think are going to do great. So, I mean, at this point in the movie draft, if you've still got money, you might as well buy it.
Yeah.
You know, this is the perfect movie for someone who's already spent $70 or $80 and is just looking to pick up something to fill out their slate, because there's still a couple big movies coming up. One of those might be The Voyage of Dr. Dolittle, based on the book of the same name. It is starring Robert Downey Jr. as the title character, along with Antonio Banderas, Michael Sheen, a bunch of other people. He stars as Dr. John Dolittle, who can speak to animals. The same source material as the Eddie Murphy Dr. Dolittle films, although this one will be more serious. Not like super serious, but
yeah,
sort of.
He's the guy that can talk to animals. Yeah,
right. Yes,
I remember that.
Yes.
I'd probably take a pass at this one. This is I would probably pass up this one. That is to say, I don't really think it's gonna crack any codes.
The question is who it does it target, right? If it's targeting kids, maybe
just because there's it's so shallow, like there's such a shallow pool for kid movies.
Well, that's part of it. I mean, Spies in Disguise will be a month out at that point, and there isn't anything for a couple more weeks, so there's that. And people are always looking for kids movies in January. It's winter, that sort of thing. But just based on what I've read about it, I'm not sure if it's like the Eddie Murphy Dr. Dolittle is funny. Like they cover that thing in jokes. It's meant to be for kids. I don't know if this one is. My concern is they skew a little more Sherlock Holmes, Robert Downey Jr., where, yeah, there's some humor, but it's also got some weird, serious moments that aren't for kids. There have been no trailers or anything on this one, so it's all about the tone. If this is for kids, it's an interesting pickup. Otherwise, I agree with you. I don't think it's going to be much.
Yeah. Okay. I was actually researching The Gentleman a little bit because I was getting that movie confused with The King's Man, not to be confused also with The Invisible Man, which is right after that.
Yes, which is
so The Gentleman.
Well. Yes, The Gentleman, our next film, coming out here in January. It is starring Matthew McConaughey. Actually, again, it's another one of those. It's a Guy Ritchie film, so that should tell you something. It's an action thriller following American expat Mikey Peterson, played by McConaughey, who has created a highly profitable marijuana empire in London. When the word gets out that he's looking to cash out of his business, it triggers plot, schemes, bribery, and blackmail attempt to steal his domain from out under him. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, this is another one I would probably pass on.
I don't know.
There's a lot of movies in this draft that are just not worth it. Just not worth the buy. I don't
someone will
see
get this with their last $5. I mean, that's
yeah.
how this
At this point in the draft, I think people will be strapped for money, and this is the point where the bulk, the people that are trying to pick up, like they go for quantity over quality.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to try to pick something up here. But if I were going for any of the movies that remain, I'd probably save up for.
We got to remember, Matt. One of these is my
King's
must-own movie. So
it is your must. Yeah, I know you. Sonic the Hedgehog is definitely your must-own movie. So
no, maybe it's this next one. It's not. Birds of Prey. Harley Quinn is back. Margot Robbie is back as Harley Quinn. We all loved her in that great movie, Suicide Squad. She returns with a whole new crew. Actually, the trailer just came out. She kicks a lot of ass. Part of the DC Extended Universe. The original Suicide Squad did $325 million. I think this is an interesting own. I think this would make a good partner with like a Star Wars or a Frozen if you could pick this up on top, because this will do 250. I mean, it'll do solid numbers, I believe.
So in the scene in Marvel Avengers Endgame, right?
Yeah, which I have not seen.
In the end of so in one of the later scenes in the movie, all of the female Marvel characters like get together, like they're all all of the Marvel heroes are fighting in this, like in the battle, the big huge battle against Thanos and his men. Yep. and his troops and whatever, and all of the female Marvel heroes, Wonder Woman, T'Challa, Captain Marvel. Wait, did I say Wonder Woman?
Maybe.
No, Wonder Woman is not Marvel. Forget I said that. Captain Marvel, different IP. Anyway, yes. All of them they all get together and they fight, and they all like look at the camera and they're like, we can handle this. And they just start kicking ass like left and right. This movie is like a DC exec saw that and was like, let's make a whole movie just with that, but we'll do the DC, but we'll do the villains side, much like the Suicide Squad was the like antithesis of Marvel. That's what this movie is. That's who this movie is pandering to. I don't think it's going to really. I mean, nobody saw the Suicide Squad did horribly. So
I think Suicide Squad made $325 million. I mean, it was a crappy movie. People saw it. I think, Matt, you're right. I also think they saw how much money Wonder Woman made and said, "Oh, we should make a lady movie." And then they also saw that Harley Quinn was arguably one of the only interesting parts of Suicide Squad and said maybe she should get her own movie. So this movie's going to make money. I don't think there's any doubt about it. Is it going to be critically loved? I doubt it. Nothing in the DC Extended Universe really is. But like I said, you can get a good 250 out of this. So don't dismiss it just because it's going to suck. People will go see it.
Yeah, it's really one of the hardest things about this movie draft is like there are movies that I think are objectively shitty, but I feel like I have to own them because they're gonna produce money. I guess separating the movies that are gonna do well versus the movies that are terrible and but still gonna do well. Yeah, and that seems to be the kind of movie this is.
Matt, just remember, Justice League, which by all accounts everyone agrees is a genuinely bad movie, made $229 million. So, This
one also looks like it's going to do a little bit more on the origin story of Harley Quinn, which people will like. People will like to.
Yeah, and seeing the lady team up and having her be the focus of a movie, I think, is interesting. I think Margot Robbie's very good in the role. So, I won't see it, but someone will. Next up here, we have Sonic the Hedgehog, based on the video game of the same name. James Marsden, Jim Carrey are in this. Everyone talked about the trailer. They're apparently redesigning the character. It'll be interesting to see. Theoretically, Matt, this movie could get pushed back if they run into issues with the CGI. Something to keep in mind as you draft it. The movie I'd probably most compare it to is maybe Detective Pikachu, kind of that live-action animated hybrid video game movie. That made 144 at the theaters. So I wouldn't expect this to be a huge breakout. Maybe some money. I don't know. What do you think about the attractiveness of this one?
This is your kid's movie. Yeah, this is like the first kids movie. Well, since Spies in Disguise, really, but really
is it
since
a kids
Star Wars.
movie? Do kids today know who Sonic is?
Oh, absolutely. Oh, they definitely know who Sonic is. They definitely know. Maybe not for the same reasons that their parents do, but they know Sonic. Yeah, they know. They know his. They know the. I would say mostly probably from internet culture and memes and stuff like that, but they know Sonic. He had that. They re-released like the Master Collection or whatever, and it was popular. Okay. So I think they know Sonic as a. They know Sonic as a gaming person, but not really as a character. So this movie is going to be a little bit interesting. It would be like having a Mario movie. I don't think it would do really well. I don't think this is going to do really well either, but it certainly is an interesting thing, especially since they made him all CG and it's weird looking. It has a little bit of the Detective Pikachu charm to it as well.
What worries me about this is, and we did one of these preview episodes for before Detective Pikachu came out, and I think both of us said we thought it was going to be a bigger success than it actually turned out to be. I think 144 was soft on Detective Pikachu, frankly, and that worries me about Sonic the Hedgehog because Pikachu is way more beloved than Sonic to kids today. Pokemon as a whole, I think, is more popular than Sonic. So if that could only do 144, I don't really see this movie doing better than that. It's not going to lose you money, but I just don't see this as a breakout.
Yeah. If people have money left over, I personally would be going for the next one.
Oh, yeah, the next one. This is interesting. A third in the franchise, The Kingsman. It is the third in the Kingsman franchise. The crew is back. Now, the Kingsman franchise, the original, came out in 2015, made $128 million. The sequel in 2017 made $100 million. So not necessarily huge films, but certainly solid films. A lot of the cast from the other movies is back. It's actually a prequel film.
It is. It's a prequel to an interesting franchise.
Oh, sure.
Again, it's got how did the original Kingsman do? Because this one's got some star power to it.
Yeah, the original Kingsman did 128, and the sequel did 100.
Okay, I think this one it'll probably be a passable one if you got some cash left over, unless you want to save it for The Invisible Man.
Yes, The Invisible Man, Matt. Good segue. The Invisible Man is here. I think this was an interesting one to include because it is the reboot, essentially, of the Dark Universe. We all remember the beloved Mummy movie with Tom Cruise that was going to span a whole franchise. It crashed and burned immediately, so they turned the reins of the franchise over to none other than Jason Blum and the Blumhouse Productions crew. This is their first in the Universal Monsters series they will be making. In this film, Oliver Jackson Cohen will be playing the Invisible Man, and Elizabeth Moss will be playing the other side of that, based on the H.G. Wells novel. It's going to be interesting. Jason Blum obviously has been very successful. I think the Invisible Man is a known name and entity. Coming out in February, like it is, late February, I don't know what necessarily it's going to compete with. It could be interesting. But they got to sell the hell out of it.
Yeah, they do. They I don't know. I don't really know who is this movie gonna attract. I actually really like the idea of a connected universe, but yeah, they got to step up the marketing there if we're gonna get some if it's gonna pull some real weight, I would say. Otherwise, they're going to have a real bad trip.
Well, Matt, the thing is, I literally moments ago learned that Bad Trip got pushed back a month.
Okay.
And is therefore out for the movie draft and will be replaced later. So you're actually only getting 29 movies tonight.
So whatever will I spend my remaining $3 on?
Matt, I think you're going to spend your remaining $3 on my third must-own movie of this draft. Onward. Are you familiar with Onward?
A little bit. This is a Pixar joint, isn't it?
It is. It's their Pixar entry for 2020. Chris Pratt and Tom Holland are doing the main voices. It's directed by Dan Scanlon, who directed Monsters University. It is an original IP for them, loosely described a world, sort of a fantasy world with modern technology, and two elf brothers fall into a magical adventure, but it's got all kinds of creatures and stuff in it. I like this movie a lot. I think the timing is good. I think the stars are good. I thought the trailer played really well. I think it's going to be an approachable, likable story. I think Pixar hasn't had a really good original IP since Coco. And then before that, it was Inside Out. So they haven't been doing a lot of original IP. I like this movie. You can't go wrong with Pixar.
No, you can't.
I mean, the Coco, I would say, was a soft performer at 209. And I think there's a good chance this beats it. For kids' movies, I really like Onward. I think that's a good pick. And I think if you've gone past Frozen 2 and Star Wars and still have a lot of money, hold out for that last movie and go for Onward, because I think you could do a lot worse.
Yeah, I totally agree. This is going to be in your back end, like post Star Wars, this is the one must-own movie. I would not want to pass it up.
I'm excited to see it.
A lot of people. Huh?
I'm excited to see it, and I'm not excited to see any movies this year.
I totally want to see it too. It comes out March 6th. This is, I think it genuinely looks like a good movie, and Pixar always does really well.
And I think it's more approachable than Coco. That's what I like. I get why Coco only did 209. It's got a very narrow subject matter that's not really applicable to everybody. And what I like about this story is, or even The Good Dinosaur sort of had this problem, I think the subject matter of this movie is very broad, which is very smart. Cars is sort of like that, where everyone gets what cars are. You know, I think everyone gets what fantasy is. And so, to me, it's got a much broader reach.
Yeah. It's definitely got like the kind of story that's going to tug at your heartstrings.
Yeah, there's action, there's comedy.
Oh yeah,
it's a good mix. So I think that's a great own.
This is going to be a good one.
Probably my favorite thing about it, it's the last movie in the draft, which is very interesting. Usually our last couple movies are trash. I think this may be the best movie we've ever had this late in the draft.
Yeah, this is good. It's going to present for an interesting variety of strategies.
Because if two people go for this and they get to the King's Man or the Invisible Man and both have like $50 left, someone's really screwed.
There's nothing left after this. If you're going to roll the dice on this, then you better commit.
Yep.
Because if you don't, then you're going to be in trouble.
I'm very thrilled
you're
about
that. You're going to be left to dry, so to speak, left out to dry. So.
And that's our slate for the Winter League. Matt, by the way, would you like to know what the first movie of the Summer League will be next year?
The very first movie of the Summer League already?
Yes. Yeah.
Wow.
Coming out March 27th. I plan very far in advance.
Yeah. Okay. What is the movie?
Oh, I thought you were going to guess. It's the live-action Mulan is going to be our first.
Oh, okay.
And next year we have a lot of big movies coming out. The James Bond No Time to Die will be coming out in April.
Yep.
Get excited.
Yep. No Time to Die.
Trolls World Tour, Legally Blonde 3. They're doing an animated Scooby-Doo film, Fast and Furious 9, Wonder Woman 1984. Another Pixar movie's coming out in June. The Top Gun sequel, the Minions sequel, Bob's Burgers the movie, Jungle Cruise the movie. A lot of really exciting stuff. So But we're a ways off from that, Matt. We first got to draft all of these winter movies. People, come back next week, episode 160. You're not going to want to miss it. All 6 of our teams are going to be here drafting these movies. It's the best episode we do all year. Anything can happen. It's a can't-miss episode of the show. You can get the show at upfordebate.tv. All the episodes are there, including the past ones. You can check those out. You can also subscribe to the show wherever you get podcasts. Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Overcast, Spotify, we're everywhere. And the video version is on YouTube as well. If you want to see the pictures of me baking, I'll probably post them on my Instagram as well after the show at Instagram at Sean Jennings. And you can contact us at UpForDebateTV on Twitter or email us upfordebatetv@gmail.com. I think we've all had a very fun time here tonight, but we got to wrap this up. So on behalf of Matt, I am Sean. Thanks for being here. We appreciate it as always. And we'll see you next time for another episode of Up for Debate.